Okay.
It's just we understand the difference. We got to understand the difference. Carbon is 12 and copper is 60. So it's a force of 5 to 1.
Hmm.
So this is where it comes from. With the zinc and nano coated copper, we create a magnetic field from the nucleus point of view. This is the difference.
Mm.
Where with a carbon, you create the atomic structure withdrawal, where in that position, the process is so rapid that you produce carbon, which you have to support it with the oxygen. And if you produce CO2 from the physical element of the carbon, you are connected to the physical dimension of the material. It's very much like the iron, which is in a metal condition, in a physical matter condition, coming in touch with the GANS of the amino acid produces the blood. But if you put the GANS of iron in a different shape or form into the amino acid, you produce a pure blood, hemoglobin, the real hemoglobin. You still produce the same, but is not the same strength of the same order. There are two different things. The iron you take as a tablet is very much different than the iron you digest from eating, let's say, red meat. The one you take as a tablet is in a matter condition, and you absorb all of it. In the one you take with meat, body only takes what it needs. This is the problem with a lot of the food. This is one of the reasons I always explain, even in the teaching earlier today, that when you take your magnesium, zinc, and copper, you take it with CO2 and zinc oxide, because you create a condition of entrapping it or delivering it in the environment of the body of the man. And body only takes what it needs. When you take a magnesium tablet, all of it goes into, because it's stronger, so it enforces itself. When you take your tablets, even like for potassium, calcium, magnesium, and the rest, you take it in the environmental condition of the zinc and copper and CO2. It's a totally different process. Now you convert, you distribute it as an atomic molecular GANS level, where the others is different. The same thing is with the CO2 sticks. You have a huge massive force sitting at the copper, 5 times more, and you literally strip it out. It's just taking your clothes off yourself, or you're standing in a huge wind tunnel and getting everything stripped off you very fast. That's all it is. But the essence of the carbon you create in a zinc plate, magnesium, copper plate, is a GANS state magnetic field. It's totally different structure plasma. Where with a copper stick, you create a CO2. It's very fast, but it's not recommended as such for the use as a for drinking. What do you call it? The plasma water, unless your body needs it. It's a big difference. The
May
Mini
I
and the Rolls Royce are still both cars. Depends which way you want to drive it.
may I ask? One of the discussions that has come up is the thought that the carbon is a nanomaterial, and I'd like to know what your thought on that is. And some, you know,
Can you explain? I missed the word. You just got
y-
disconnected.
yes, the question that some discussion that has come up is that the carbon is a nanomaterial because it's burned. Say if it was a piece of some bamboo makes a nice carbon stick, and I know that the purity of the carbon stick would make a difference. But the idea I think that started it was that it was a hexagonal structure, molecular structure, as I believe the nano-coated copper is. And I'm understanding the difference in the molecular weight difference and all of
Yes, you
that.
see, there's a very big difference in the understanding. There is nothing wrong with both of them, but what do you expect for them to operate under? You understand? That's the difference. You'll find out when you work with a GANS plasma, which is CO2, you have the natural effect. With a CO2 which you create from the stick, you have a different dimension, the strength of the plasma. Do you think your body creates that kind of condition? I don't think so.
Okay, very good.
As we say in English, horses for courses. Just because it's a horse doesn't mean you can put it on the racetrack or put it on the flat race.
How about making nano-coated copper GANs with a coil? If I'm in a lot of countries where only simple things are available. For instance, right now I'm in very small villages in the Yucatan of Mexico, where I may teach a couple of classes, and getting materials is a little more complicated. So a copper wire, a heavy wire that could be made into a coil versus a plate.
You know, in a third world, in a condition like you are, in the condition you already have access to pure carbon, which is being converted, if you want to look at it that way. The ashes from wood, yeah?
Yes.
That's your best solution.
Okay.
If you, let me explain, please.
Okay, please.
If you make ganses of the ashes of wood, yeah, because the wood has already gone through the transformation in the what do you call it, in the process, as the same as do the carbon stick they make.
Yes.
But
yes,
you'll find out is how you played in what you needed. In South America, for centuries, people have used. I was explaining this to Dr. Klaus very recently. I think that the South Americans centuries back used to burn wood for heating, and then when they threw the ashes out, they found out they're getting very good results in growing food. In the places that food never grew, they start growing beautiful vegetation, what they needed to eat. And then they actually start burning the woods to create areas where they could put the ashes that they could cultivate. If you go to South America, in places you see lands which are totally black. Because for centuries they literally burn wood to create ashes, to create nanomaterial, to absorb energy, that the vegetation could grow on it.
yes.
We've seen this is done by the Israelis very clearly after 1960s war. When they took over the Sinai desert, the Israelis came up with a fantastic system. They tarmacked the desert and they brought the new soil, topsoil on the tarmac. And the oranges you see coming from Israel comes from desert. The big oranges, which is so because Israel doesn't have that land mass to do. They understood the potential of using the land, isolating it, or putting a topsoil with a lot of things on it. We see this now will come in part of the norm in Africa. We're trying to change desert to a food center this way, literally by GANS material. This is what I suggested to the Chinese government. As you know, the central China desert is moving towards Beijing very heavily, and they've tried everything. And the simplest thing for Beijing to do is to literally water the GANS and put seeds on it, and it grows, it solidifies the move of the desert, and it costs nothing. What you're talking about is the same thing, creating a GANS or creating environment of the GANS.
Yes.
When I was in China last time, years ago, this was a discussion what we're going to do with the movement of deserts into Beijing. We'll run Beijing over in the next 50 years, 100 years, most probably. But by changing the environment, you let the sand be there, you create a condition where the trees can root and plants can root, and it stops the movement of the desert. There is no other solution. And it costs literally nothing for the Chinese government. And you do the same. When you put in South America, you say in a remote village or whatever, the ashes are your best ganses because they're already converted to nanomaterial. You have to find a way to convert it. Put it in the soil, ratio a different, connect the electric connection with them, discharge, and you will see.